Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Tool Farts. My name is Chuck.
Now I'm Lou. I'm gonna snaggletooth the old fart today again for the
Yeah,
next
you,
couple of months.
yeah, you're gonna be next couple months.
Yeah, but it could be worse, right? I could be missing all of them.
It's true too, but then you'd have some dentures at least.
Yeah. But anyway, I have to start wearing that thing that doctor gave me. He laughed at me. Went
The
to about,
flipper.
yeah, I told him I didn't want to do anything to make this thing even longer. He said, it'll make no difference. It's going to take 2 or 3 months anyway.
Wearing the flipper will cause your gum to grow around the part that's facing up into it, so your gums will be curved when they put the tooth in there. So you
Yeah.
do want to wear the flipper.
I got the stitches out last week, and, so now I'm starting to usually, but I just have to chew on the right or left side. Yeah, so, but anyway, could be worse.
It can always be worse.
Yeah. Before we get started, we're going to talk about Buffalo Soldiers, right?
Yeah,
Blow my nose here. My feet and nose and swap places here. Feet's running, smelling, nose is running, so I don't know what the hell I'm going to do here with all this.
I think
Change.
it's the live oak. Remember,
Yeah.
the leaves are already starting to turn, so they're gonna fall, and then it's gonna be live oak dust and pollen everywhere.
Yeah. Before we get started, we'll give a shout out to your oldest daughter, Kaylee, my first granddaughter. She listened to our broadcast and podcast, and she asked if I would submit some stuff. So I had to put it on Facebook. Some books. She talked about history. She liked our podcast when we talked about history and things like that. She wanted to know if it had some good books to read and stuff like that. So I printed out a list of some books I have read, either all or part of it, and stuff like that. So thank her for that, and ask all of our listeners out there if they have any kind of requests, let us know.
I would agree. Yeah. So, what books did you send her?
Well, for military history, we were soldiers and young by Lieutenant General Harold Moore and Joseph Galloway. I like that book because it talks about the Vietnam War, and you take it from both sides. They interviewed the Viet Cong, North Vietnamese, as well as their own. And they were both there. Moore was the
The tank
general.
commander. He was the commander.
Galloway was actually with him in
Who
Vietnam.
was?
Joseph Galloway, the writer.
Yeah, he was the writer. Yeah, he was covering a story.
So it's some very true, very good information. And another one I really liked was My American Journey by Colin Powell, his life history. And I think that kind of fits in with this month, with Black History Month. I personally like Colin Powell. Of course, he was doing my era, my time frame, and stuff like that. And another one that I read that's about history is To Rescue the Constitution by Brett Beer. I personally like Brett Beer. I think he's a good writer. I've read several of his books, but I really enjoyed reading that one about To Rescue the Constitution. I thought that was pretty good. Then, of course, when it comes, I think there's a lot of leadership, and that's one of the things Gailey talked about was leadership. The Nick Saban, The Leadership Secrets of Nick Saban, and then the other one that he did was How Good Do You Want to Be? I really liked that book. It talked about, it wasn't just about sports, it's about people, how he led his team and how he wanted them to all graduate and become better people, not just ball players, but better people. Then the other one was Bear Bryant, CEO. I thought that was a pretty good book because, again, and there's a lot of coaches out there that talk about leadership and how sports and all those kind of things all come together. Then I had about 18 books I listed on leadership. And the very first one that I ever read was The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. I thought that was a pretty good book. And there's several others. One of the ones that I liked was the 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader. It talked about all the different leadership. And I think we talked a little bit about that the other day, about some of the leadership qualities and stuff like that. So I just wanted to tell Katie, thank you for that, for the feedback, and that, because that's kind of what we want to do, is give us some information and a little bit about us and what we do. How about you? What kind of books or anything like that have you read?
So a few years ago, I had read a very good book, and I guess I got the idea to read these books because it was about counterinsurgency, and the wars that you and I both have served in both happen to be counterinsurgency wars. And the one book that I read that was it really got to me was Learning to Eat Soup with a Knife.
Okay.
But just think about that, eating soup with a knife. And he chose that title because you can eat soup with a knife. It's just going to be messy.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point of fighting a counterinsurgency, is the fact that it's going to be messy.
Exactly.
And it's counterinsurgency lessons from Malaya and Vietnam.
Okay.
And so it's about the British fighting a counterinsurgency in the country of Malaya. And much like in the Vietnam War, it was called the Malayan Emergency, and it lasted from 1948 to 1960. Much like our Vietnam War, which went from like 1950-ish with the French through
Yeah.
1975 with us.
That's a 75.
Yeah, so it's a good book written by Lieutenant Colonel John A. Nagel. He is a veteran of Desert Storm and the current conflict in Iraq. And another book that I read that I had seen on a lot of people's reading lists, it was called On Killing. It's the psychological cost of learning to kill in war and society by Dave Grossman, where he explores the psychology of the act of killing in military law enforcement, how that establishment and the attempt to understand and deal with the consequences of killing. And it's based on SLA Marshall's theory that the majority of soldiers in war do not ever fire their weapons due to an innate resistance to killing. So that's a very good book. If you ever get a chance, if I can find my copy, I'll bring it over to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to read. 'Cause I like to read, especially about another 2 or 3 weeks. When the spring comes around, I like to sit on the back porch in the early mornings or late afternoon when it warms up a little bit and the sun's out, and just read.
Right.
And I've got a lot of these books, but I really like that one. I was telling you about the one I'm reading. We're Soldiers and Young. I really I enjoyed reading that book. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. Yeah, but it's really, really good. I like books when you get different perspectives.
So this goes back to your generation, and it's really the start of part of that book On Killing It. The research that they do on the increased incidences of PTSD in the military, and it's closely related to those firing rates. And it brings up that debate between correlation and causation. And from your generation, the Vietnam War era compared to World War II, which yours was sparked by more anti-war demonstrations and the public's unwillingness to get involved in the war. And another was about the decompensation time it took for soldiers. During World War II, it took a long time for them to get home, like weeks. They didn't fly on airplanes. They went back on boats.
Exactly.
So they had time, 7 to 10 days on a ship with their fellow soldiers to decompress and share their experiences with each other. And when you were in Vietnam, next day you were on a plane going home.
Exactly.
And then the next day after that, you were home.
Exactly.
You didn't have a lot of time to decompress because a lot of the soldiers that served in Vietnam, they were out in the field until the day before they went home.
And some of them on the day
Or the day of. Yeah.
was on the plane that day. You hit Saigon, and in hours they were gone.
So yeah, I think they talk about how they changed the targets to just be silhouettes, so you wouldn't see a human's face. The cadences that we sing, it's about getting you comfortable with the idea of killing. You don't think about it when you're going through basic training, but you have to know the reasons why.
Exactly.
To find out why you are the way you are at the end.
Yeah, next time I come by and come over and take a look for those books, I like to take some really interesting stuff there. It's like PTSD, World War II, and your grandfather's was, especially your papa, now looking back, was really affected by it, but didn't know what it was, didn't know how to treat it. And he got 10% disability. It's like $15 a month.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It wasn't. But to Granny, it was. It paid her electric bill at that time, But so that's what you want to make at it. But anyway, so how did the Tuskegee Airmen and the Buffalo Soldiers change the military?
Besides just the obvious of integration, what else do you got?
Well, President Truman, through executive order, desegregated the armed forces in 48, like you said. Their history of what they did is what defines them. General Benjamin O. Davis Jr. commanded both. He's the only person I could find that commanded both the Buffalo Soldiers and the Tuskegee Airmen. And the more I read about the Tuskegee Airmen, those were some real troopers, I'm going to tell you. There's a lot of history. We'll talk about that next week. And Davis was the fourth African-American to graduate from West Point. His father was a general.
I did know that.
Benjamin O. Sr. And we'll talk about him next week, too, and stuff like that. But the Buffalo Soldiers, they were cavalry troops who fought in the Spanish-American and the Philippine-American Wars and the Mexican Revolution. The nickname Buffalo Soldiers came from the Plains Indians who fought against them. And what they said was, I'll come back to that just in a minute. The Tuskegee Airmen were military pilots in World War II. The Tuskegee were formed after African-American soldiers voiced their desire to receive the same thing as the white counterparts. His role in both the soldiers and the Tuskegee Airmen demonstrated the growing contributions of African-American soldiers and their desire for equal treatment. Back to what you were saying, segregate. The Buffalo Soldiers were African-American regiments in the Army and served in the 19th century. They were the first all-black professional soldiers in the U.S. Congress in 1866 formed 2 cavalry units and 4 infantry regiments to be filled by African-Americans. The 10th Cavalry Regiment was formed at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas on September 21st, 1866. Their duties was to fight Native Americans, map unexplored lands, open the West for settlement. They served in the Spanish-American and Philippine-American Wars and served as park rangers in the Sierra Nevadas. American planes who fought against these soldiers referred to the black cavalry troops as Buffalo Soldiers because of their dark, curly hair, which resembled a buffalo's coat, and because of their fierce nature of fighting. What a compliment, huh?
Yeah, it reminded the Native Americans thought their attributes reminded them of buffaloes because buffaloes are very highly revered in that Plains Native American culture.
Yep. Then I'll get to that in a minute, but there's a lot of Buffalo Soldiers who won the Congressional Medal of Honor. And of course, when you go to that, the Medal of Honor name has actually changed several times, about 3 times. Did you know that?
I knew it had changed about once or twice. I didn't know it was 3 times.
The Medal of Honor, first named the Medal of Valor on December 9th, 81. And it changed again in 82 to recognize Army veterans, and then it changed one more time since then. Since the 1860s, there have been over 90 African Americans awarded the Medal of Honor. That includes all of those different titles, okay? And I've got some stories of Buffalo Soldiers who served with the regular Army who earned it. You don't receive it, you earned that Medal of Honor. The Buffalo Soldiers' main duty was to support the nation's westward expansion by protecting settlers. The first African American to be awarded the Medal of Honor was Henry O. Flipper. He was born into slavery in Georgia on March 21st, 1856. During Reconstruction, he attended Atlanta University and was appointed to West Point by U.S. Representative James C. Freeman. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant and assigned to the 10th Cavalry Regiment, becoming the first black officer to command soldiers in the regular U.S. Army. He served with distinction, but he faced intense resentment from some white officers. And he was targeted by a smear campaign that culminated in a court-martial and his dismissal from the Army in 1882. But in 1999, President Bill Clinton posthumously pardoned Flipper. Sad, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
A lot of changes have been made. So who were some of them?
That by name, I don't know, but I've got a story that I want to share.
Okay.
And it involves one of my favorite generals, General. They call him Blackjack Pershing.
Okay.
And one of the stories is that he got the nickname Blackjack because he commanded a black regiment in his career.
Yes.
So it was in February, this time, 1917, troops invaded Mexico as part of the punitive expedition. And that is because a year earlier, Pancho Villa had raided the town of Columbus, New Mexico with about 485-ish men. They attacked the border town in March of 1916. So according to Department of War records, 10 American officers and soldiers were killed, 2 officers and 5 soldiers were wounded, and 8 civilians killed and 2 wounded. But Brigadier General John J. Blackjack Pershing, he took 14,000 regular Army troops into North Mexico to try to find and capture Pancho Villa. So, yes, he took the Buffalo Soldiers into Mexico after Blackjack Pershing. I think they were the troops from the 10th Cavalry Regiment under the command of Colonel William Brown. He was the senior officer in the regiment.
Okay. I'm going to give you a list. I think it's appropriate. We talk about it's 10 or 15 names. 12 names I'm going to give you. They were the first ones. I'm just going to give you the name and just a little bit about them. Okay. Fitz Lee, Virginia, a Medal of Honor for his action in the Spanish-American War. Dennis Bell, along with 3 other soldiers, volunteered, went ashore to rescue wounded comrades during the Battle of Tacoba.
How do you spell it?
Tayyacoba.
It sounds like Tacoma to me.
Then the following year, he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his actions that day. He's buried in Arlington. Then you got Thomas Shaw. He was one of several Buffalo soldiers who would wind up receiving the medal for his action in the Indian Wars on the frontier. Moses William. He entered as an illiterate ex-slave. He took advantage of the opportunity presented to him and become educated. Was achieved one of the highest honors with his military service career. Then you got Benjamin Brown, with Medal of Honor back in the United States and the world. Then Augustus Wally, that's what you're talking about. He was Medal of Honor actions on August 16, 1881. He fought at the Battle of San Juan Hill during the Spanish-American War. Then Henry Johnson, he was also born enslaved. He enlisted in the cavalry. He reached the rank of sergeant. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions. The Battle of Milk River, October 2nd to the 5th in 1879.
Okay.
Then you got Henry Johnson. And I was going to look up some more, but his name is just so familiar. I don't know why, but anyway, he was there in the all-black 369th Infantry, known as the Harlem Hellfighters. He was posthumously awarded the medal on June 2nd, 2015, for his gallant action during World War I. He was buried in Arlington National Cemetery. And that could be because I've read several books about World War I and World War II and stuff like that. Maybe that's where his name, when I saw that name, I don't know. And his picture just seemed so familiar to you. Then you got Freddie Stowers. He was assigned to the all-black 371st Infantry Regiment. He was killed in action on September 28, 1918. He was the first African-American to be awarded the Medal of Honor for action during World War I, which he received posthumously in April of 1991. And in World War II, there was some Medal of Honor recipients: Isaiah Mays, George Wanton, William O. Wilson. Then you got John Fox, Reuben Rivers, Charlie Thomas, and Vernon Baker, and Edward Carter. Those are all from World War II. So quite a bit of history there.
Yeah.
Then in Korea, there's a couple. It's estimated 600,000 African Americans served in Korea from 1950 to 1953. Roughly 9.3% of Americans killed in Korea were African Americans. 10% of those total loss. 2 African Americans were awarded the Medal of Honor during the Korean War. William Thompson, he was assigned to the 24th Infantry. He was killed in an action on August 6, 1950, defending his comrades' retreat. He was posthumously awarded in June 1951. He is the first African American to be awarded the Medal of Honor in the Korean War. Then you have Cornelius Charlton. He fought in the 24th Infantry. He was the last of the segregated Buffalo Soldier regiments to be integrated. He was killed during the Korean War on June 2nd, 1951. He was posthumously awarded on March of 1952. He was one of 2 African Americans awarded the Medal of Honor during the Korean War. And lastly, the Black Seminole Indian Scout Medal of Honor recipients. There were quite a few of those who went on use their knowledge of the land to effectively do their job for them, awarded the Medal of Honor. Unpaid fractures. Then you have Wally James, Edward Carter, John Ward. That was on that particular action. So a lot of history there with these people and their services and their sacrifice for us. It's very important, I think, that we take the time, especially during this month, to honor those people and all of our veterans, living and those who've sacrificed. So thank you for your service. And I'm very proud to call you my son. Not because just my son, but what you do and how you done it and all the things that you do and you have done.
Well, thank you, sir. Only half the man that you are, so.
Well, that means you weigh about 150 pounds.
Yeah, 40 years ago.
And you're about 4 feet tall, 3.5 feet tall.
Yeah, there's just a lot of history, you know. Going back to the punitive expedition into Mexico, that was the last time that horse-mounted troops would play a significant role in American military operations. Because in World War I, the horses were pretty much replaced by trucks. You know, we didn't need mules and horse-drawn carriages anymore. We had cars and trucks. And then you had the new airplane as well.
Then you could move troops faster and actually more safely.
So, yeah, it's just amazing. Like you talked about the Spanish-American War. I think that in Cuba, the hat that the Buffalo Soldiers wore, that is the hat that the park rangers, that style of hat that they use, because that was also part of the Buffalo Soldiers' history, was patrolling and securing those national parks out west and protecting settlers as they moved out west. That was the reason why you have those forts there in the Great Plains, like Fort Leavenworth and Fort Riley and all of the other forts. Even Fort Sam Houston here in San Antonio was one of those forts. They were out there doing a lot of the jobs that they didn't want to send the white soldiers to do.
Next week, we'll talk about Tuskegee Airmen. I think you're going to see a lot of that, how that changed, and some of those people. And talk about General Davis. When I was on the Sky Marshal program, he was the person selected to lead that program.
He was still alive?
Yes. Benjamin O. Davis Jr., not his father, but Benjamin Davis Jr., yeah. If I remember correctly, I think he was a 4-star general when he retired.
Yeah. He got his 4-star President Clinton.
Yes. And a lot of his father, who was one of the first African-American generals, too. I got a lot of research on that. More on that for next week when we talk about the Tuskegee Airmen. And Tuskegee.
You did say his dad was a Buffalo Soldier, right? Benjamin O. Davis's father was a Buffalo Soldier. Yes. In the ninth.
Yes. And Tuskegee is not too far from where I grew up.
Okay.
Back in Alabama. I won't say 40, 50 miles, something like that. Maybe a little bit further, not sure.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I'd give a shout out to one of your cousins, Kason. Last week, he went to Washington, D.C. He's in the Civil Air Patrol. They were selected to go to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Uh-huh. And they participated in the laying of a wreath at the Unknown Soldier. and stuff like that. I'll have to send you some pictures. I don't think you got them, but your cousin sent me
Okay.
6 or 8 pictures. So really proud of him and what he's doing with the Civil Air Patrol and those kind of things. So military kind of runs in the family, huh?
Kind of. Yeah, it does.
We're getting close to that time.
Yeah, we are. Just seems like it's a natural progression for you and I to hit that 30-minute mark.
Well, we don't want to get in trouble from your favorite aunt.
No, we do not.
I think she's the only one you got left living.
She is my only living aunt.
So anyway, we'll give a shout out to her and all of your cousins out in California
All righty. And in Alabama. And in
and in
Georgia.
Alabama and Georgia. Probably some in Mississippi. We got a good friend in Mississippi, David and Mark Wilson.
Yep.
Yeah, some good times.
Indeed. All right. Let's wrap it up, old fart.
Yeah, I got a lot to do here. I got to move into this old chair behind me over here and get that blanket out and cover up my knees and my feet and my hands and my fingers, and I'll be all right.
Get ready for all that cold weather that's coming this week.
Yeah, so it could be worse. I could be in
Oh,
Omaha, Nebraska in 1962 when that was the coldest winter, and then it fought the next 3 years that way.
Nope. That's too cold for me. All right. Y'all take care, everybody.
Y'all have a good one. Love you.
Love you guys. Love you, Dad. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.